Most business owners are using AI for basic tasks like emails. The ones that are getting ahead, they're using it to transform how they work. I'm Tania Gomez. 6 months ago, I didn't know the difference between ChatGPT and a chatbot. Now I'm learning from AI experts, testing tools in real businesses, and sharing everything that works. Because AI won't replace you, but someone using AI will. This is the AI Apprentice. Join our free community of practice at providercollective.com.au, where hundreds of business owners are learning together. We start as AI apprentices, but we leave as masters. Let's get into it. Welcome to the AI Apprentice. I'm Tania Gomez, and today I'm joined by Valentina Coin from VIA Technology. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Tania.
Yeah, it's always so lovely to see you. Before we begin, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about VIA Technology and what you do to help people with their technology.
Oh, great question to start with. VIA Technology, at VIA, we are a team of tech experts and systems experts, because nobody likes the word consultant anymore. I wonder why. And what we do is we partner with growing and scaling businesses to systemize their operation, all the way from streamlining their ops to finding and implementing the right ERP and CRM that belongs to their technology. Yes.
Beautiful. Wonderful. So today I wanted to have a chat around choosing the right AI tools. And I know that we've had conversations about AI in the past, and it's very much about looking for the problem you're solving before you look at the tools. But everyone just wants to know how to start using AI and how do they know if something's suitable for them or not. So I guess the first question for you would be, how do you deal with that question? If someone calls you and says, you know, is it right for me to use ChatGPT? Is it right for me to use Canva? Should I be looking at a video production tool using AI to solve this problem? Where do you start and what's your advice?
I'd start right where the problem is. In true consultant fashion, the answer is it depends. So we like to start from how big is the problem, what is the outcome we want to get, and what is it costing us? And when I think about cost, I think about it in terms of time, money, and emotional costs that this is causing. And that is already going to tell me something about the size of the problems and the urgency of the problem. When it comes to solving that problem, I always think about my three-legged stool: people, process, and technology. And often it's all three. But let's assume this is a technology problem. We want to solve it with AI. Now, how do we know AI is the right tool to solve that problem? There's a framework that I can share later about how to decide that. But in the simplest terms, we want to think about, can this task be automated? Can this task be repeated? And what degree of discernment is the word that we choose to use? And it's different than automation. So for us, automation is a machine providing an outcome repeatedly. It's predictable, it's precise, it follows strict rules. Whereas think about it as a continuum. That's on one end. On the other end, you have discernment. That's an inherently human quality. We have the ability to look at circumstances and nuances of a situation and make a choice. AI sits a little bit in the middle between the two. So first of all, I look at what's the problem and is AI the right tool to solve it? Because we all love AI, we all want to start using it. It's very tempting to just go straight for the solution. But if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail and it might not be the right tool. So that's always where I start. And then as far as what's the right tool, which is the second part of that question, I really would encourage business owners to bring in their team into the conversation. So as CEOs, we're visionaries. We like being inspired and we like being curious about new tools, and we want to jump on board the new tool. There's nothing wrong with that. As a CEO, as a visionary, we can do that. But in operation, in practical use in our business, it needs to move the needle. It needs to have a solid reason to exist and to be AI over normal programming. And so we want to bring in the experts in our team that are going to be using that tool and have them come along the journey with us to choose that tool. Do you want me to go into the details of how I would do that?
Yeah,
let's go straight into it.
Yeah.
This is going to be the biggest question. All right. First of all, trialing tools I spoke earlier about CEO versus operations.
Yeah.
So as a CEO, when I want to play around with AI tools, it's my CEO time. So I set aside an hour and I go and Google new AI tool of the week and play around with it for an hour or so. No problem. I know that's not productive time, that's CEO time, that's inspiration time. Versus if I'm in my ops role, because I wear different hats, I don't have a large team, I start from the problem and what outcomes do I want this tool to solve for me. Once I'm clear on that, that'll give me my requirements for the tool. And they could be technical or user experience or outcome based. So for example, about a year ago, I was looking for a tool to edit long form video into short form video. And so okay, what's the size of the problem? How many hours is it taking my team to edit on Canva, hypothetically? Put an intro, an outro, remove the ums and all my Italian gesticulating. And I calculated that time and I said, okay, it's worth to solve that problem for me because it's costing me, I don't know, 60 hours a month, let's say.
Yeah.
So then I didn't want to test and trial straight away because it is the most expensive and the most time consuming way to choose a tool. So what I did first is I went on YouTube. I looked for user manuals. I looked for use cases. I looked for other people that looked like me, that had a similar business than me. And I looked at what tools are they using. Go on Reddit, go on Facebook, and look at other people's experience. Not in terms of does it work for them, therefore it will work for me, but in terms of these are my requirements. What are they saying about their experience that relates to my requirements? And that allowed me to eliminate so many tools in the market that I knew were not going to be the right choice.
Yeah.
After that, I was able to bring it down to, say, the top 5. I went onto their website. I looked at their sales and marketing material, and I brought it down to the top 3. That's my biggest recommendation. Only test 3. Yeah. When it comes to testing, I always recommend it's like any other software. AI is just another software. So use the same frameworks and the same rules that you would for choosing any other software. And I know we've talked about this before. So even if the software provides you with a demo, or it is a big enterprise piece of software where a sales team member will run a demo for you, try to run it on your own terms and on your own rules. So come up with a user story. Mine was, I have a 1-hour podcast episode that I need to chop up in 30 1.5-minute clips. I need to be able to put subtitles on it. I want to put B-roll on it. I want to be able to put my branding on it. And I wanted to have AI to speed up the process, but I also want to retain manual control over the clip. Those were my requirements, right? Put it simply. So then what I did is I took 3 trials. 1 was free, 2 were paid. That's fine, no problem, for a month. Uploaded the same exact video into all 3. Straight away, one of them, their sales and marketing team said it could do X, Y, Z. It couldn't. So straight away, eliminate that one. Now I'm down to 2. Uploaded the same video, looked at the quality of the clips, did a quick comparison, play pretend to edit some words out, add some B-rolls, and then lastly, I had my VA go and do the exact same thing, because I'll test a tool in a certain way, but she'll test it in a different way. And then at the end, we came together in a meeting and I said, all right, which one of the 2 do you like best? She said this one. I said, great, it's the same one that I like. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a good framework. Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar to what I do as well. I think that piece about finding other use cases is really important because all the marketing material says it solves all of your problems, right? And if you're talking about a solution like that, you probably don't have a demo that's done personally for you because they're quite cheap. So there's no one that's going to demo you as such and take you through that. So you do actually just need to get in there and play around with it and see. And I do a similar thing because I like to see what tools I'm using because we spend so much money on tech. I want to make sure that it's actually usable, but I'm not actually the person who uses it ongoing. So I play around with it and then I send it to the 2 people who'll do that task and say, now, can you do 3 videos in this?
That's right.
And I find even sometimes, the more you test it is those little things that you didn't realize that were actually part of your scope initially because the tool that you had already did that thing. And now that you've moved tools, there's one thing that the last tool did that this tool doesn't do. And so it wasn't actually in your scope or your brief or your document, but now you realize that, maybe subtitles is the, as an example, the old one used to do subtitles, so you just assumed that all do subtitles, but that subtitling tool, maybe it had a lot of spelling mistakes in it, or maybe the transcript wasn't quite good, it was too hard to edit the transcripts. So actually going through the process, I think, is really important. What about if the tool is quite a more expensive tool and you don't have the ability to try it out for a week or a month as part of a low cost pilot?
Yeah, I would expect for a tool like that to be able to run a demo.
Yeah.
If I can't trial it hands on and I can't have a demo, I would have alarm bells ring a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, with the demo, I would be really specific as to what I want to see.
Yeah.
We have so many, marketing is designed to attract and capture our attention and make us excited about something.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. And sales is designed to excite our emotions and make us feel a certain way, so we take action as quickly as possible to close that deal. Again, nothing wrong with that. Get excited about the tool, but also reserve half of yourself to have that analytical approach, to have that really, what do I want out of this tool? And I love how you touched, Tania, on maybe my previous tool did subtitles really well and I did not include it in my requirements because I thought, that's obvious. That's one of the biggest mistakes we see leaders do, is look at the requirements, what is it that I want, and forgetting about what does the tool that I currently have do well.
Yeah.
So
the needs.
And
the needs as well as the wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm yet to find a perfect piece of software in anything, right? There's not a perfect piece of software that does exactly what I want. Yeah. So how do you deal with that problem that, this software would be perfect if it did these 5 other things? How do you manage that? Is it just being really clear on the must-haves versus the wants? And do you rate them? Do you give them a score? Is that just my very analytical brain that would rate everything and try to be, have an equal system? Because I do think that some people just get caught up in the branding or the marketing message and they kind of want a cool tool. So like Canva's kind of a good example of that. I think everyone uses Canva and I use Canva and it's awesome. But I think if there was another tool that was as good as Canva, some people just wouldn't move because it's not Canva. You've got that brand recognition, you've got that, it's leading, in your head, it's a leading piece of software. So, but I'm sure there's other things out there that are probably a similar price or less that are better than Canva, but we wouldn't explore them because in our head it's not going to be as good, or maybe the development potential in the future as well isn't going to be as good as what Canva can do.
I think it's a true statement. I think the other thing to consider is the team behind the tool is just as important as the tool itself. So yes, there might be a tool that does the same things as Canva, or it might be a little bit cheaper and do almost the same things. But I would also be careful to look at what's the team behind the tool, how mature are they as a business, and how safely can I take them as my tech partner for my business? Because businesses go out of business all the time. It happens, right? And sometimes tech companies are in it for a short period of time to get a number of users, and then they might either sell to a bigger software company or they might even close up shop. You don't know that as a buyer typically when you engage with those firms. So I would do a little bit of research as well. And sometimes as a business, it might be a safe bet to choose a Canva as an example, because it has a name, because it has an element of solidity to it. And also being such a big brand from a security point of view, you would expect that it pays attention to a certain number of things that maybe a smaller startup-y software that has maybe a one-time lifetime price might not have. So,
and then support, I suppose, is the other side. Yeah. So someone like Canva, actually, I don't know if I've ever used their support, but I'd imagine they would have good support, as opposed to I've bought some tech systems in the past. Maybe they are cheap ones to do something as a once-off, and it's just there's no help anywhere. I
had to once. It's good support.
Yeah.
I just couldn't play an audio jingle
Yeah.
that I purchased. I was like, guys, copyright infringement here. What's happening?
Yeah.
And they were pretty quick turnaround, lovely to deal with. So that's another thing that I would try if one has the opportunity when you're choosing a software. Try and submit a ticket to help desk.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. So you talked before about return on investment and the cost. And when we're talking about the cost of an AI tool, often we're just comparing the subscription fee or the monthly fee or the setup fee, as opposed to having a look at all the other costs. Yes. What are some of the other costs that we need to look at when we're thinking about getting a return on investment on our software?
Yeah, great question. So as I said earlier, right at the beginning, when I look at the size of the problem, I think about it in terms of time, money, and emotional cost. We have a customer that has a particularly small problem. It's probably costing them about $100 a month to solve this problem. From a time perspective, however, and from an emotional stress that the team is going through every month with regards to this problem, it has quickly risen to the top of the problem we're solving for them.
Okay.
Even though it's $100 a month, like as an organization that turns over 10 mil, it should be a known problem, but it is. So first I would look at that. Secondly, in terms of cost, yes, I would look at the user fee. I would look at the implementation fee if there is one. And I would look at the change cost, obviously, that bringing in that new tool will present to our business. In terms of, yes, we're going to have to be trained on how to use this tool. We're going to have to get used, maybe to stop using an older tool and start using a new tool. And also, it depends on the tool, but maybe cost in terms of, especially if we talk about AI, cost in terms of our client base, so our end users, using that tool and switching over from the previous experience we were providing to the new experience we are providing. We're very big on the word experience at Via, in the sense that sometimes businesses that work with us might choose, whether it's a software or to streamline a process in a way that appears inefficient. Maybe there's an extra 2 or 3 steps, or maybe I'm choosing a software that doesn't cut some steps but adds some steps to my process, because I'm trying to create a certain experience in the customer base that I serve, and that particular step serves that particular outcome. For example, we in our business often send video messages, and we have a few different platforms that we use for different parts of the process. And we have tried an AI tool that would take my likeness, my voice recordings, we would feed it all of this data, and would then generate those messages automatically. I'd feed it a script, and it would say, "Hi Tania, it was so good to meet you in Sydney today. I loved recording the podcast. Let's stay in touch." It would have saved a lot of time as opposed to me recording those videos, but that's not what we're about. So we made the choice not to go for the automation and not to go for the perceived efficiency of that, because over time it would erode the trust that our partners have with us.
So, the relationship.
So I would look at that as a cost as well. Trust as a cost. Trust with your partners, with your clients, and maybe even with your staff.
Yeah, and I guess that's where this idea of human in loop comes in, of actually having a look, from a systems perspective, or as a process of the whole process that you're working through. Where does it need to be human? Where do we need to insert a human to make a decision, to review something, to edit something, to approve something, whatever else it might be? I think when people think of AI or technology, they kind of think of, it has to be all or nothing, as opposed to actually realizing that it's a process with probably 100 steps. And in those 100 steps, there's 100 opportunities for a human to do this, for an automation to do this, for AI to do this, and a whole spectrum of how you actually put this together. And it's never going to be 100% AI. And a process can be 100% human, but that also has as many issues as it being 100% AI. So having that balance of how do we do this, And for me, it starts with having a clear idea of the process. And I feel like that's probably where people need to start once you have the problem. But even I do process mapping with clients from a compliance perspective, but even I offer process mapping even if they're not going through an audit, just for them to have some clarity over what's the process, for them to actually think through the steps. And it's amazing how a lot of people don't know the micro steps or can't articulate them. And it's like, oh yeah, we get a referral and then we talk to a client. Well, no. What are the 15 fields that you get? And where does that information go? And what happens next? And what can that push? And what's the steps from there? And just trying to actually break down for them to think into tiny pieces, as opposed to chunking up to a client calls, we deliver service. Well, there's probably 200 decisions you've made in there and a whole lot of information you've collected. Yes. And let's just talk through what that process looks like.
That's right.
And I think sales and marketing is a really easy place to start when you talk about AI, because you are collecting some data there, but it's not highly personal data. It might just be first name, last name, email that you're collecting. It also is applicable to every business. Every business has a sales process. Yes. So you can talk about, what does the sales cycle look like and how do you use AI chat agents in there. In my sales process, as an example, we used to send out a diary link through Calendly as an example for someone to book into my diary. But if someone went to that page and there wasn't a time that was suitable, then you'd lose them and they wouldn't book in. So now we use a little AI inside that process that feeds them times and can go back and forth with them. And then if there's no time, it sends us a message to let us know there wasn't a suitable time so we can call them. And so at every opportunity, it can still feed back to a human to help in that process. And I think that's the part that sometimes gets forgotten.
100%. I love that example. It's very practical and it serves the customer.
Yeah.
It's not just AI for the sake of AI to look cool.
Yeah.
It serves the need of a customer because you've seen a problem.
Yeah.
Someone bounces off the booking page. How can I solve it? And AI is a great tool for that because of that insight and decision making and conversational nature of a chatbot.
Yeah.
It's perfect use case.
Yeah.
I think these days, right now, and probably when this episode gets released, we are in the age of, we have AI tools and we have workflows. A workflow may or may not be AI, depending on if a step within that workflow is just a series of actions that sequentially follow each other.
Yeah.
If one of the steps involves an AI tool, it doesn't become an AI workflow. It's still a workflow, right? So this is where we are today. For the most part, the majority of businesses will use AI tools. They're a piece of software that takes a prompt and delivers you an outcome. That's it, one thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's a ChatGPT or whatever tool we're talking about. Right now, we have a human always prompting, always driving that interaction. And the human is almost, if you think again about a line, the line on the top is the human. The human is always present. And then AI might come in for bits and pieces of the process. What, according to Gartner research, we're going to see already from 2026, 2027, is AI agents. And I know we spoke about this before. Larger organizations use them already. What an AI agent does is not only just one task, but a series of tasks, and not only sequentially, if this, then that, or maybe if red go left, if blue go right, but actually it has that insight, it has that decision-making process where the agent has a variety of different pathways and it can choose which action will I take next based on what the human interaction that I'm having. Coffee time. Love it. Based on what human interaction I am having, I will then choose the most natural path to follow. So when we're talking about human and AI interaction, for me, it's really about not replacing. And I know this is a sentence that everybody uses all the time. AI is not here to replace us. We know this. But what it will require us to do is actually get better at asking questions, get better at being strategic, and get better at managing. So I see a future where the workforce that you have today, let's say you have a manager that's leading a team of 3 workers that are doing, let's talk marketing, for example. Yeah, you've got a marketing manager and 3 marketing assistants. The future that I see is tech is really here to help us do more with less.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I see is now 4 leaders, each one of them having a series of AI agents that they can orchestrate and coordinate so that each one of those individuals can then multiply their output via the AI agent, not the same one manager now being replaced by 3 AI agents. That's not what I see. And I encourage so many business leaders that I speak with to think about it in those terms, as a multiplier, not as a replacer.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that as well. I think that it's always it's about amplifying your skills and what you're good at. And that requires you to be good at things and to have skills in the first instance. But once you do, if you know that you are the best at, you know, marketing as an example, you know, it just means that you're doing more of that strategy work, and you've got a team of agents that can do things. I was talking to a company who sets up AI agents, and what they've done is, like they were saying, don't think of it as a marketing agent. It's actually like 30 different agents that do tiny little things. It's like someone who writes the copy for your website or the copy for your meta ads, and then an agent that checks the copy, and then an agent that looks at the analytics of the copy and feeds it back. And that they're working in harmony, but they all have very, very defined skill sets that do very small parts of the process.
100%. One of the biggest reframes that I suggest leaders take when they're thinking about purchasing AI, you're not purchasing a piece of software. Don't think about it in terms of procuring a piece of software, even though we did say follow that framework earlier. Think about it in terms of recruitment. How would you recruit a new team member? Right? Try to merge the two almost. So you want to bring in a team member that shares your values, that has similar speaking patterns than you if they need to represent your brand. And that's what you can do with AI. You can get a piece of technology and teach it to be the perfect employee, to have your values, to speak like you. And I love what you just said. Every single piece of that 30 AI agent cohort is doing one specific job. So rather than hiring 30 individuals or hiring a marketing team that has 30 individuals doing a fractional piece of work, you now have an agent doing that minuscule step and working together as a team. Now, sure, you're not going to have team dynamics and office politics to deal with AI, but think about it in terms of shift it from tech procurement to hiring and see what new lens you might be looking at this from, what new ideas might pop into your brain.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In sectors like the NDIS, care sectors and health, what about privacy and security? So that's probably the biggest question that I get asked, is around basic privacy, security checks. How do they manage this?
The way we see it is it's risk management. What level of risk do you want to take? And how are you going to manage that risk ongoing, which is what I mentioned earlier with the Canva example. If we lean on a larger organization that a lot of other businesses trust and it carries a lot of other data, there's more chances that they're going to be more careful with their data and treat it in the right way. Ignorance is never an excuse. So in that initial research piece that I recommend everybody does, ask the question, whether you're in a demo or whether you can use a help desk function, ask the question of the software, how are you protecting your data? What security measures do you take? Where do you store your data? How many backups do you take? And just to be a little bit contrary here, we all put our data into Facebook and WhatsApp and all of those other apps that exist, and they're so ubiquitous that we don't stop and ask ourselves, what's the security of Facebook and WhatsApp? And it's probably worse than some of those other AI tools. So yes, it is a hot topic. The thing that we can control as consumers, so there's certain things we can control and certain things we cannot control. The ones we cannot control, so the things we can control from a purchasing point of view is, am I choosing a tech partner that's solid? Do they have good security measures? When I ask the security question, does the salesperson squirm and go white in the face, or are they comfortable in answering me? Then there needs to be an exchange of trust. I trust you as a business provider to provide me with a service that has a certain level of safety and security. this is where what we can control as a buyer somehow stops, and we have to go into the trust realm. So these are things we cannot control. If they say they're ISO certified and they store their data securely in an AWS server and da-da-da-da-da, and it turns out not to be true, it's them as a business. It's not our... we can't control that to a certain degree, right? Yeah. We can only do our due diligence at the front. Now, back into the realm of what we can control, one thing that I'm really passionate about is when someone's purchasing an AI tool, there is the outside facing security, which is what we just spoke about, and then there is the inside facing security. So most AI tools, because they're new, don't yet have internal permission structures, and it may not seem that important, but as soon as we start thinking about putting private information, mixing up marketing data with sales data, with operations data, with our finance data, with private client information, with our business's revenue, all in the same potentially AI tool. So whatever the CEO feeds into it to get their own reports at the end of the year is the same exact platform where a team member on the ground feeds certain other information and a marketing team member feeds certain other information. Now it's all in one pot. Potentially, that lower level team member can now request information that should only be privy to the CEO. So I'm very passionate about control what you can control, and permission within a tool, if it is shared, are something that I don't see enough software vendors talk about, and I don't see enough clients ask for.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's not something that I'd thought about before, but it makes perfect sense. It's almost like, yeah, especially I guess if you've got HR files and all sorts of things, you could have somebody in there prompting to see what's in their own file, or what was, you know, about their colleague, what a colleague gets paid, or, you know, any of that information that until now has been private. I guess the P&L is a big one, right? Not all businesses want their employees to know what their P&L looks like. It's another level of transparency and, you know, forced transparency if you don't really look at how you're going to manage those things. Yeah, that's interesting.
It comes back down to the risk. What's the level of risk this organization is willing to take? Maybe they actually welcome that forced transparency, and it becomes a recruitment and to retain staff, a tool to say, we're so transparent, you can see what we made this year. That's up to every business to decide.
For someone who's overwhelmed with the amount of AI options, what is there like a simple checklist that you would give them to start playing with AI? Or are we just going back to solving a problem? Or, you know, is there something that you think that they can do just to start to build some digital literacy around AI and get in there and have a play to see what is actually possible to solve with AI?
100%. I'm going to answer this in multiple different ways. I promise you they'll come together at the end. So first of all, let's separate playing around with the tool time with I need to achieve an outcome time. If we're sitting in the former with the CEO, we want to be inspired, we want to see what's possible, great. Maybe the guardrails that I would put around that are time. So if you enjoy playing around with AI and want to spend 5 hours on the weekend doing that, absolutely do it. But because it's a conscious choice, not just because you get sucked into the vortex and then you're like, oh, it's 8 p.m. I haven't even had dinner. So if we're talking about play around with tools time, 100%. If we're talking about outcome, that's where I would go to problem solution. The second thing that I would say is, which I mentioned earlier, trial and error, testing a tool, as fun as it might be, and for some of the listeners might not be considered that fun. I mean, it is for us, but maybe it's not for you. Watch YouTube videos and look online at the material that's already there of individuals that may be fine playing with AI tools, fun, and can already give you their findings. So you might be watching a 20-minute video about all the different AI tools that do outcome XYZ. And I would much rather you do that for 20 minutes than spend 4 hours getting frustrated with a tool that you feel like you should be testing, not to be left behind. Let's leverage other people's strengths and just get the benefit that we want. And the third thing I was going to say 3 things, and I'm not sure that I remember what the third thing is. CEO time, leveraging other people testing, and mindset shift, so that because marketing is really powerful, and as humans we desire things that are appealing to us. So we might see a larger organization using AI and getting incredible, allegedly, efficiency gains from it, right? That's still marketing. It's word of mouth marketing. Maybe that organization is not being paid to do marketing for that particular platform, but it's still marketing. Yeah. So a mindset of healthy skepticism is probably the third thing that I would encourage everyone to have. And really trying as hard as we can to separate that fear of missing out, that temptation, that shiny object syndrome of, I need to jump into AI, it can do so much for me, and if I don't do it, I'll be left behind. To a degree, that is true. But more often than not, and this is very understandable, when clients come to us and they say, I think I can be more efficient in my business, and I think AI can solve that for me. We say, great, it can. What are you thinking AI can do for you? And typically, there's silence back. No one knows what it actually can do. So this is where that play around time can help answer that question, because we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. But keep it really separate. Play around time can help us figure out what AI can do for us, and leverage the experience of others as well. Go on YouTube, watch some videos, understand the difference between the different AI tools, understand what it can do for you, and then as a separate, completely separate hat, completely separate mindset, now what do I need it to do for my business? Is it the right choice for my business? And now I'm just gonna go hunt for the software that I need.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's getting informed of what the options are, and then bringing it back to, let's solve a problem now that we know what the problems are and we know the capabilities, I guess. Yeah. It does remind me, inside the AI Apprentice, we have a community of practice, and the idea is that people will experiment different things. So I've written about 50 different experiments. The idea is that people will go in, choose an area that they want to experiment with, try some things, and then do a report and upload that so we can learn from each other. So if you are listening to this and you want to start playing around with tools and learning from each other, it's completely free. It's at providercollective.com.au. You can jump inside there, choose your area, have a look at what other people are doing, and share, because I think the biggest thing is going to be sharing the tools that are working for you. And if you're trying a tool that's in marketing and sales, there's probably a lot of YouTube videos, but there's so many tools rapidly evolving, especially in very small niches like disability or care, that there might not yet be a whole lot of content about. So that's kind of the idea of this community as well, is to talk about what you're doing in your business that is helping you, what problem, and creating user stories about what you've done, so that we can kind of share that information together more broadly. So hopefully you'll jump in there too and have a look at some of our experiments and play around.
I'm excited. I love that you're creating that container. Yeah. Because you're providing the framework, the structure, and the idea. You've already done the inspiration part. Yeah. You're providing a structured way to do that. So I love it.
And the idea is that, I'm not an AI expert by any means, but I do love tech and I do love playing around, and I am someone that spends all weekend playing with systems and technology. I love a new piece of software, much to my team's dismay sometimes. I'm the first one that's like, I've tried 15 softwares. I like these 3. Which ones do you like? But in saying that, not everybody loves that as much as I do. Some people find it incredibly overwhelming and don't have the patience, the experience, and really no way to tell if this is going to solve their problem. So if we've got a whole bunch of care providers together, they can say, look, I've used this to solve this problem. Maybe that gives a little bit more inspiration.
And make it practical and tangible.
Yeah. Yep. And actually solve some real problems together. Also, potentially, a lot of these AI companies, or all of these AI companies, are brand new. So if we can, get 200 people doing a pilot or a test of their system and tell them what we loved and don't love, maybe we can help to shape some of these to be better fits. So my last question for you today is, if someone wants to reach out to you and find out more about how you might be able to help them, what's the best way?
Best way is to find us on LinkedIn. So VIA Technology, VIA Technology. Or you can find me, Valentina Coin, just like a coin. It's a good surname to have.
It is. It's wonderful. Cool. I'll also pop all your details in the show notes below if anyone wants to find you there too.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in.
In 30 minutes, you just learned what most business owners will spend months trying to figure out on their own. Want to keep that momentum going? Join our free AI Apprentice community at providercollective.com.au. Hundreds of business owners testing tools and sharing real wins. Come and be an AI apprentice with me. Let's become masters together. I'll see you next week, or better yet, I'll see you inside the community today.